Dear viewers, the following stories are inspired by real events. However, the names of the characters have been changed to protect privacy. Story 1. The Ghost of Yale's Ancient Library. Late night, November 2001, at the Beinecke Rare Book and Manuscript Library. A building famous for its unique architecture and gloomy atmosphere located on the Yale University campus in New Haven, Connecticut. Olivia, a 23-year-old graduate student, was diligently researching for her thesis. She was one of the few people authorized to stay and work in the library after midnight. Olivia sat alone in the vast reading room, the dim yellow lights casting long shadows on the towering stacks of ancient books. The gentle whistling of the wind outside the windows and the soft rustling of turning pages were the only sounds breaking the library's eerie silence. She felt a strange chill in the air, even though the heating system was running. To complete her thesis, Olivia needed a specific rare book located in the library's Special Collections archive, a section rumored to be haunted and rarely visited. After obtaining access permission and receiving an antique key from the librarian, Olivia felt a mix of excitement and apprehension. The Special Collections archive was located in the deepest basement of the library, accessible via a long, winding corridor with dim lighting. The air here was noticeably colder and damper than outside. Towering shelves were filled with dusty, leather-bound books, some dating back centuries. The smell of decaying paper and dust filled Olivia's nostrils. As Olivia carefully searched for the book she needed, she began to sense strange phenomena. Several books unexpectedly fell from the shelves. Even though no one was near them, she heard faint whispers echoing from somewhere between the bookshelves, but couldn't pinpoint their origin. The feeling of being watched from behind grew increasingly distinct. Finally, Olivia found the book she needed. It was on the highest shelf, covered in dust. Just as she reached out to grab it, a sudden gust of icy wind swept through the archive, extinguishing her only flashlight, plunging her into complete darkness. Olivia frantically fumbled for her lighter in her coat pocket, her heart pounding. In the brief flickers of light from the flame, she glimpsed fleeting shadows moving between the bookshelves. She felt an unseen presence very close to her. Suddenly, a loud crash, like something heavy falling and breaking, echoed from somewhere in the darkness. Olivia startled and turned around, and in the faint light of her lighter, she was horrified to see a tall, shadowy figure standing at the end of the aisle, its glowing red eyes staring directly at her. Olivia screamed, a choked sound. Trying to back away, the shadowy figure remained still, its glowing red eyes fixed on her. She felt an icy coldness radiating from the figure, making her body numb. The lighter in her hand trembled and fell to the floor, plunging her back into darkness. In the darkness, Olivia heard shuffling footsteps approaching. The footsteps grew clearer and heavier, as if a giant creature was dragging its feet towards her. She tried to crawl backward, but her back hit the cold wall. She was completely trapped. Olivia recalled the stories she had heard about this library. It was said that in the early 20th century, a librarian named Elias had committed suicide in this Special Collections archive after being accused of stealing rare books. His spirit was believed to still haunt the area, guarding the books he had lost. Olivia tried to call for help on her cell phone, but there was no signal. She was completely alone and helpless in the darkness. The footsteps grew closer, and she could hear heavy, labored breathing coming from the shadowy figure. Suddenly, a hoarse, hateful voice echoed in the darkness. "You don't belong here. You will pay the price." Olivia felt a cold hand touch her neck. Tightening its grip, Olivia struggled to break free. But her strength was no match for the icy grip. She felt her breath being squeezed out of her. Her vision blurring. She closed her eyes, accepting her fate. Suddenly, a loud bang echoed, and the hand gripping her neck loosened. Olivia quickly opened her eyes. The shadowy figure had vanished. She lay on the cold floor, gasping for air. Her flashlight lay nearby, its faint beam illuminating the surroundings. Olivia quickly picked up her flashlight and ran as fast as she could out of the Special Collections archive. She didn't dare look back until she was out of the library. That night, Olivia never returned to the Bionic library. She knew that what she had experienced that night was not just a nightmare, but a terrifying encounter with a vengeful spirit. Story 2. The Phantom Melody of Memorial Music Hall. Late night, October 1998, at Memorial Music Hall, a beautiful but somewhat gloomy old building on the campus of the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. Liam, a 20-year-old music major, decided to stay late to practice for his upcoming performance. He was a dedicated student and often practiced alone late into the night. Liam sat alone at the grand Steinway piano in the center of the spacious stage. Soft yellow lights shone down from the high ceiling, creating an ethereal play of light and shadow. He was engrossed in practicing a technically challenging classical piano piece. The sound of the piano echoed through the silent hall, occasionally interrupted by the faint creaking of the old building. As Liam was deeply focused, he began to hear faint, unsettling melodies drifting down from the empty balcony above. Initially, he thought it was just the wind or his imagination playing tricks on him due to his intense concentration. But the melodies grew clearer and more distinct, sounding like a haunting, unfinished symphony, filled with sadness and a sense of longing. Liam felt a growing unease spreading through him. He stopped playing, listening more intently. Curious, Liam decided to go up to the balcony to investigate. He ascended the creaky wooden stairs, his footsteps echoing in the quiet space. When he reached the balcony, he found it completely empty. But the air here was strangely cold, and Liam felt a palpable sense of sadness enveloping the space. As Liam returned to the stage and sat down at the piano, all the doors to the music hall suddenly slammed shut with a loud bang, plunging the entire hall into darkness. The power went out. Liam jumped in his seat, his heart pounding in his chest. Liam rushed to the doors, trying to open them, but they were all locked from the outside. He was completely trapped inside the darkened and isolated music hall. The strange melodies from the balcony started again, this time sounding clearer, louder, and more menacing. In the darkness, Liam heard soft footsteps moving on the balcony above. The footsteps grew closer, and he could now hear faint, cold breathing. The faint moonlight filtering through the tall windows cast eerie shadows on the walls, and the ghostly music from the balcony rose to a piercing high note. Liam trembled and backed away, leaning against the cold piano. The footsteps on the balcony continued to approach, and now he could hear faint, chilling breaths. He tried to call for help on his phone, but there was no signal. He was completely alone and helpless in the darkness. The strange phenomena began to escalate. The piano started playing discordant, piercing notes on its own. The chairs in the hall began to shake violently. Liam saw shadowy figures flitting across the stage and disappearing into the darkness. Liam remembered the stories the upperclassmen told about the music hall. It was said that in the 1930s, A talented but unfortunate composer named Elias Thorne had hanged himself from this very balcony after his life's work. A symphony was stolen. His spirit was believed to be trapped here, forever playing his unfinished music in despair. Liam felt a deep sense of sympathy for Elias. He believed that the musician's spirit was trying to communicate with him through the music. He decided to try and find out what the unfinished symphony was. Liam fumbled in the darkness, trying to search the stage. He stumbled upon a stack of old sheet music. By the faint moonlight, he recognized them as sketches for a symphony. The unfinished notes on the pages seemed to be waiting to be completed. An idea flashed in Liam's mind. Perhaps the only way to escape this hall and help Elias's spirit find peace was to complete his unfinished symphony. With all the courage he could muster, Liam sat down at the piano in the darkness and began to play the notes he had just found. As Liam played the first notes, the strange sounds in the hall gradually subsided. The music that filled the hall was melancholic but also hopeful. Liam felt a shift in the atmosphere, as if the sadness and despair were slowly dissipating. As Liam played the final notes of the symphony, a soft white light enveloped the hall. The ghostly figure of Elias Thorne appeared on the balcony, smiling at Liam with grateful eyes. Then, the figure slowly faded away into the light. At the same moment, the lights in the hall flickered back on, and the doors automatically unlocked. Liam knew that Elias's spirit had finally found peace. Story 3. The Cold Library Phantom. Ohio University, Athens, Ohio. Fall 1973. Dusk was falling. The autumn wind blew through the ancient trees on the Ohio University campus, carrying a chilling cold. Sarah, whose real name is Lisa Miller, a freshman literature student, hurried towards Alden Library. She had an important essay on Edgar Allan Poe due the next morning. The faint yellow light from the tall windows of the old library created a scene that was both solemn and somewhat eerie. Sarah shivered, not from the cold, but from a vague feeling of unease creeping into her mind. Stepping inside, a terrifying silence enveloped Sarah. Only the sound of her footsteps echoed on the old wooden floor. The library was mostly empty at this hour, with only a few scattered students diligently working among the towering stacks of books. Sarah made her way to the American literature section on the third floor, where the books she needed were located. As she passed a dark aisle of bookshelves, she suddenly felt someone watching her. A sudden coldness spread throughout her body. Sarah stopped, looking around, but saw no one. She told herself she was probably just too stressed. Sarah continued deeper into the aisle, searching for the anthology of Poe's short stories. Suddenly, a strange sound came from the end of the aisle, like the sound of a book falling. Sarah startled, her heart pounding. She whispered, "Is anyone there?" But only a terrifying silence answered. Sarah slowly approached the source of the sound, and she saw an old leather-bound book lying on the floor. Its pages open, displaying the words, "The Raven." Sarah picked up the book, the coldness from it seeping into her hand. She shivered again, flipping through the yellowed pages. Poe's gloomy verses seemed to penetrate her mind, creating a melancholic feeling. Suddenly, a gust of cold wind blew through, rustling the pages in Sarah's hand. Even though all the windows in the library were closed, Sarah began to feel that something was wrong. She decided to find a seat near the window for more light. As she walked past a large wooden table, Sarah noticed a strange carving on its surface. It was the shape of a distorted face, with deep, hollow eyes staring directly at her. Sarah recoiled. a chill running down her spine. The carving looked truly terrifying, as if it had a soul. Sitting down at the table, Sarah tried to focus on her essay, but the unease continued to surround her. The wind whistled outside the window, growing stronger each moment, sounding like someone weeping. Sarah felt her mind was as tight as a stretched string. She tried to ignore the strange sounds, but they kept echoing in her ears, refusing to let go. Suddenly, the lights in the library flickered and went out, plunging the entire space into pitch darkness. Sarah stood up in fright, her heart pounding in her chest. In the darkness, she heard soft footsteps approaching her, heavy, panting breaths hitting the back of her neck. Sarah screamed in terror. When the lights came back on, Sarah found herself standing alone in the silent library. There was no one else but her, but the cold feeling and the extreme fear still haunted her. Sarah quickly gathered her books and ran out of the library, not daring to look back. That night, she couldn't sleep at all. The image of the distorted face and the panting breaths in the dark kept repeating in her mind, like a terrifying nightmare. In the following days, Sarah tried to reassure herself that what she had experienced in the library was just a hallucination due to stress and lack of sleep. However, the cold feeling and the image of the distorted face still haunted her. She looked for articles about the history of Ohio University and Alden Library, hoping to find a rational explanation, but what she found only made her more confused. There were rumors of strange events and lingering ghosts on campus, especially in this old library. Despite her fear, Sarah still needed to finish her essay, and the most important materials were in Alden Library. She decided to go back on a Wednesday afternoon. This time, she went with a friend named Mark, whose real name is David Chen, a history major. Mark was a practical person and always skeptical about ghosts. Sarah hoped his presence would make her feel safer. As they both entered the library, the space was still silent and cold as before. Sarah tried to ignore the feeling of unease rising within her. They went up to the third floor together, to the American literature section. Sarah pointed out the wooden table with the strange carving to Mark. Mark examined the carving carefully, frowning, and said, "This isn't a normal carving. It looks old and seems to have some meaning." While Sarah was looking for Poe's book, Mark suddenly touched her arm. He whispered, "Did you hear that?" Sarah listened, and she realized there was a very faint whisper echoing somewhere nearby. The whisper sounded like a woman's voice, thin and full of sorrow. Both of them felt a cold shiver run down their spines. Even though no windows were open in this area, the whisper became clearer each moment. Sarah and Mark tried to pinpoint the source of the sound, and they realized it seemed to be coming from the end of the bookshelf aisle, where Sarah had seen the raven fall before. They slowly approached, their hearts pounding in their chests. As they reached the end of the aisle, the whisper suddenly stopped, replaced by a mournful sigh, as if someone had just taken their last breath. Mark, who was usually quite tough, also began to look worried. He squeezed Sarah's hand and said, "We should get out of here. Something's not right in this place." Sarah completely agreed. She also felt an extreme fear engulfing her. They both quickly turned to leave, but as they took a few steps, a series of books from the high shelves suddenly fell down, blocking their path. Sarah and Mark stared in horror at the books scattered on the floor, dust filling the air. They tried to climb over the books to escape, but as Sarah stepped over them, she felt a cold hand grab her ankle tightly. She screamed and fell. Mark quickly pulled her hand, trying to drag her away from the invisible grip. Sarah clearly felt the coldness and strength of that hand, as if a dead body was trying to hold her back. Finally, Mark managed to pull Sarah free. They both staggered out of the library, leaving behind the strange noises and the terrifying feeling. That night, neither Sarah nor Mark could forget what they had experienced. They knew that Alden Library was not just a place to store books, but also a dwelling place for a dark and terrifying force, and they would never dare to return there alone again. If you want to hear the story continue, please subscribe to my channel.